First question to everybody here for these interviews is about you and how you became a musician and why the bass. So it's just about your personal history as a musician, as an artist.
Okay. Well.
And what's up with the beard? That's the next question.
Well, they say Brahms's father was a bass player, and Brahms had a great beard.
Apparently late in life, because did you know that his beard would not grow, and then when it finally did, he never cut it, because that was the manly thing to have a beard. So he didn't have any facial hair until like late 30s or 40 or something like that. So
I didn't know that.
Yeah, beard means you arrived. Huh?
Well, sometimes young men or even middle-aged men come up to me with shame and say, "Well, your beard is so good, but me, I don't have a beard." And I try to tell them that every beard is special. But now I have this story that perhaps one of the greatest beards of all time didn't start.
There you go.
So,
unlike your bass playing.
Yes, and actually my bass playing got a late start too. So my father played tuba, and his father's father, grandpa played tuba, but my mother's father also played tuba.
Okay.
So it was a family of amateur tubists, and I got a chance to tell a professional tuba player that, and he assured me that all tubas are amateurs. So
was there like tuba Christmas at home every Christmas, or
tuba Christmas is very is very important to my dad. Like if I said, "Hey, Dad, there's gonna be, you want to come see the Nutcracker?" He'll never do that because he's got tuba Christmas. But he loves the tuba. I remember I got so excited that when the Mahler won bass solo, and I called Dad and I said, "Oh, you would never believe what the Huntsville Symphony they're having. They're gonna play Mahler's first symphony." He says, "Oh, the one with the tuba solo."
Well, every piece is the one with the tuba solo, right?
Yeah.
With the tuba in it.
Yeah. Well, so he studied school, and he studied music in school. His ear is to die for. But then went and got his master's in computer programming. So he was computer programmer before it was popular.
Yeah.
And he had a job at the hospital. And I don't really...
Here?
No, we're in the small town we lived, about 40,000 in central Kansas, Salina, Kansas. And he did things like he wrote software that organized things for the pharmacy. Mm-hmm. So he was stationed there. And I had a bad case of pneumonia, and I was in the hospital, and I had a brother and a sister, with young kids. I would think I was 4th grade at the time. The house is busy moving, and I think the parents, they yearn to have individual relationships with each of their children, but the other ones are around. So there was my dad at his workplace, and he knew that I was there. So he would start having lunches with me while I was sick, and they had a tent over me when I had pneumonia. And he came, and I was there. "Well, what do you want to play?" "A tuba." And so he suggested that I would, to start, I would play the double bass.
So it was his idea.
It was his idea, yeah. And the thing was, the schooling system at that time, I think it's still the way. In that town that I grew up, 4th grade began strings, 5th grade began band,
Mm-hmm.
and so he said, just start at the bass and then switch over to the tuba. And
the switch never happened.
Yeah, the switch never happened. I fell in love with the bass. And another praise to my parents, and a joke just sort of down the rabbit's trail, is I always tell people that when I was a kid in central Kansas in the 90s, my instructions for like 6th, 7th, 8th grade was, you cannot go outside and play basketball. You cannot, don't go outside and play football or baseball or whatever until you've practiced your bass. And now, I think what I do to my kids is I say, please go outside. Please put down your device.
Your kids play music?
They don't. I think that one of them will. And it's very likely
But they see and hear you practice at home, right?
They see.
Are they voicing their opinion on your practicing?
Yes, they love the bass, but are also embarrassed by it. I think because they're starting to recognize that. Why Daddy pick this one? Or, And then there's also my car holds my bass, but when my bass is in my car, it doesn't hold all of my children. So I think they sometimes see it as problematic, and that's what a bass player does every day. So, but figure out how to get to work and how to get his kids to school. But anyway,
well, with big instruments, it's always a hassle to haul it around. Harpists and bass players and percussion players can tell you endless stories about that.
Yes.
It is always a problem. So when did you start with the HSO, and what's your Huntsville Symphony story? And if you remember your first show you ever played with this orchestra?
Well, I just finished my journey. Maybe it's too verbose of a story. Was I just finished my master's at Yale, and was maybe in the I don't know, 4th year of marriage, but kind of wanting to go to permanent spot, and my wanting to get a doctorate. So I picked Athens, Georgia, but at the time there was a post for Chattanooga Symphony, and so Athens is like, I don't know, 5 hours away from Huntsville, not even on the map.
Yeah.
But I won a spot in Chattanooga, and then I would drive from Athens to this giant city called Atlanta, and then out of Atlanta to Chattanooga. And I remember thinking, I never want to live there. So I thought, I have a job in Chattanooga. Huntsville's close to Chattanooga. And so in my first year of the Chattanooga Symphony, there was a posting for 2 spots in the Huntsville Symphony. And that's very exciting because emotionally, to win an audition, sometimes you feel like lightning has to strike. So when there's 2 spots, it's like, well, maybe the lightning will strike and then touch me at the same time. So I always tell my audition story too, because it's not a standard excerpt, but it can be an excerpt. That the elephant from Carnival of Animals was on the list, and I thought, wow, what a strange excerpt. And then I left the audition room, I won the job, and I stepped outside, and there was an elephant at the Von Braun Center. I thought,
the sign. It's written on the wall.
Yeah, so I joined, and that was for chair 2. And I guess as soon as I got chair 2, the principal must have heard some bad things about me or whatever, because they resigned. And Hunter at the time, he didn't say, you're the interim principal. He sent me an email. He said, you're the de facto principal. Thank you. So I was the de facto principal, but I never knew, what was going to happen. And I don't know. I think I was confident in my own head that I had expressive qualities. And so one of those years, there's a few solos, and then I think the year after that or something like that, I was appointed, and I don't know. I guess over the years, yeah, is it's grown into something. I don't know the words. I cherish. I've always cherished it, but now there's a sense of nostalgia with the cherishment. And
Talking about nostalgia, you remember your first show, your first program you played with us? It must have not have a big bass solo in it.
Do you remember?
Or tuba.
I was making mistakes left and right. Well, and even that, sometimes takes time, because over the course of time, it was like the assistant principal just figured out what my idiosyncrasies were. It's like, well, this is where this man lies on the spectrum. Oh, he stopped counting. There it is. And so anyway, that's a side point, but that's always my argument for. That's why assistant principals, they get a little bit extra because they keep the principal in line. But I don't know what my
What are we playing this week? I'm just joking.
Can I ask the cameraman? Can I phone the audience?
Yes.
Well, we're playing Rachmaninoff 2, which is so popular that it's sometimes called Rock 2. And bass players like to rock.
There you go.
So, yeah.
So a little bit more philosophical question about the general state of classical music and how you see it. I mean, you're having a career in classical music, and you said one of your kids might be playing an instrument, and then that your parents were amateur musicians. So you see a lot of ways of going about enjoying playing music, making a living in music business, and there are always the doomsayers, about this is going to go under, this is not going to work, we're going to run out of audience, we're going to run out of tuba players, we're going to run out of bass players in 20 years, in 30 years, nobody's going to play Beethoven. What's your take on that?
Well, a quote that once stuck with me was like, they don't call it classic for nothing. It's classic rock is the kind of rock that's classic, but classical is, I don't know, it's stood the test of time, but also, going back to classic rock and just talking off the cuff here, there's the Bohemian Rhapsody. You see a form, you see a long story form, and the angst of human life and the struggles that we have, like, it mirrors what we have in life. Theoretically, I'm speaking from my own Christian worldview. I live an anxious filled life, battles, struggles, until one day I get to praise my Lord in heaven. And all these troubles, all these struggles that I have, I go to church and I sing a little song. I don't want to sing that little song over and over again. I need trials. I need angst. I need tonic, dominant, subdominant, tonic, dominant again. And until we reach the final tonic.
So you're hoping that classical music can kind of tell this story to everybody who is listening to it in their own way, of course. Not necessarily the same story, but at least give a glimpse of what's coming, or what's possible.
Yeah, and I want something that lasts 40 minutes. Because life lasts a long time. I don't know. Did that answer the question?
Yeah, I think it did to me. I don't know. So when you're not, because you're working a lot, you're still playing at Chattanooga, right?
Yeah.
So where are your other gigs? What are you doing in the music business outside of Huntsville? That this is a double-decker question. And when you're not working, what are you doing? What do you do for fun? Any hobbies? Anything of that sort?
Yeah. So, well, every instrument in the orchestra has different possibilities of making money side. So a violinist can, do quartets or weddings, and they're a popular instrument. A bassist oftentimes might open the jazz thing, and I haven't really opened that. I don't really have a good answer for it, other than I'm not as in love with that genre, although I like it. But
did you ever study it though?
Yeah, I studied it, and but is ultimately what I didn't fall the most in love with. So, but anyway, I think as a bass player, it is much. Oh, what I was gonna say is, like a violinist, a charming personality with a violinist. It's easier to build up a studio because there's more violinists, and it's a more rational thought, a pattern of pursue this instrument. But the more obscure your instrument gets, the harder it is. So I would say the bass in some ways is kind of more of an obscure instrument. It's not going to get as much side money. So the time in my career where I was like, I realized I needed to supplement wasn't until maybe my 30s. I was like, oh, I have to supplement. And it's been a variety of things, but as I supplemented, the amount of things that I have grew. So that city I mentioned wanting to drive around, I now live in it. So living in Atlanta has provided me opportunities where over the years I've subbed with the ballet, I've subbed with the opera, I've subbed with the symphony, and I teach at a K through 12 private school there that they bring me in as a coach to their low strings, and then I have a small college teaching job.
That sounds promising, though, that they have a low string program. So
it's amazing. That school is called Westminster, and it is. Well, I mentioned I went to Yale. It seems to me like the Yale of K through 12. My children go to public schools, so the difference is at the elite private schools, I put the chairs away, and my kids, they talk about how they put the chairs away in their public schools. So that's the difference. But no, so I have Chattanooga Symphony, I have Greenville Symphony, and Huntsville Symphony, and and then I sub I just subbed a concert with the opera, and then I'm gonna sub a tiny bit with their Nutcracker. These things keep me busy in the town, and
for fun.
And for fun, I get
hobbies.
to play music for fun.
It's an existing thing. I know many people who don't have anything else outside of music, because it can also be your hobby at the same time as it is your job. If you get to play different stuff from what you're playing at your job, then it can be a hobby.
Well, this is probably the most interesting hack that I've had later in life. So the different places that I work in Atlanta are sometimes 45 minutes apart. So if I drive to teach, I will, and this kind of is a hobby, I'll have 45 minutes to drive home, and my hack has been I have started Ubering on the way back home. So I turn on Uber, and I don't pick somebody unless they're going to my little town.
Yeah.
And then I take them to my town, and that is always a fun conversation with complete strangers. So that, in a way, has turned into a hobby where I meet random.
If they can fit in your car next to your bass,
yes, well,
they get to Uber with you.
Yes, if I have my bass, then I don't do it. But that has been a hobby. But yeah, I love baseball. I love word games.
Watching or playing?
Well, now my kids would tell me I'm too fat to play baseball now. So I know that I was drawn to symphony music early on. I think because one of the instruments that's most beautiful in a symphony setting is the horn. And I remember also telling my father, I would love to play the horn. And I don't know if it was because his knowledge of band instruments or how difficult harmonics can be with the horn and how easy it is to splat a note and how the tuba is just maybe structured differently. But I was like, oh, I would love to play the horn. And my dad's response to me was, well, you have to be smart to play the horn. And he wasn't belittling me, but he just said it you got to be smart to play that one. And I remember thinking, well, I don't want to do that one then. I wanted to have fun. So anyway, that one could
That's it about bass players.
Yeah, we're here for fun.
Thank you for the interview.
Okay.
Appreciate it.